Hey, good morning, everybody. Good Monday morning, Labor Day morning, Week 1 NFL morning, everybody. I am your friend, your pal Chapadong. I obviously represent DFSArmy.com, lead editor of content, senior contributor, and coach. And this is the beginning of our NFL coverage. Really and truly, what we're doing this year is simple. If you've seen some of the videos, you've seen me allude to it a little bit. We're doing a lot of coaching notes. We've got some very, very key high volume players that are doing cheat sheets for you to knock your research time down so that you can then spend what time you do have in a week to obviously put your own little twist on things. But we've got the core, we've got the fat trimmed off, if you will. We've got a little bit of content, but we've got a lot of screen share videos coming out. We've got some Twitch streams coming out. We've got some stuff. I'm very, very excited. 4 or 5 years into this business and things change. And to stay ahead of the curve, there are new ways to deliver information to you. And what I'm focused on here on YouTube is pretty simple. Just box checkers. I mean, we've seen this for a couple of years. It's a very, very quick way to trim the fat off. And I'm going to try and keep things down to shorter videos, 10 to 15 minute videos, so I don't take up too much of your time, because really and truly what I do is pretty hyper simple. And I'm just here to show you the basic parameters of maybe what statistics correlate to a fantasy football player reaching value. And today, I typically focus on FanDuel. We may alternate some weeks and do DraftKings or whatever, but none of that really matters, to be honest with you, because if a player is in line to bring value, it doesn't really matter if he's on DraftKings or FanDuel, because he's in the spots that I look for, the parameters I look for. He's going to be good on both sites. You may make a little tiebreaker decision based on price on the side or the PPR versus half PPR type of stuff as to how much you may give that guy a little bit of a bump and how much you like him. But I'm giving you more of a list of players that are likely to hit value, and we're going to try and put them in some stronger categories. If you look back a couple of videos, you'll see a quarterbacks sampler that I did. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to go into defenses and tight ends. And then we'll come back and we'll do wide receivers tomorrow. We'll do running backs on Thursday. We'll do on Wednesday. We'll do quarterbacks on Thursday, and then we'll probably build some form of a core lineup. We might build a little bit of a core along the way today too. We'll just kind of see how it goes. Maybe we'll do put 1 or 2 slots in there today, and then come back tomorrow and put 1 or 2 more slots in there, and then the next day put 1 or 2 more slots in there, and sort of see where we go. But I don't like building from defense and tight end first. I may have a few key places, but that's what this list is designed to do, is give us 4 or 5 solid options at each position, and then we can kind of pick and plug and play where we want to go. And of course, we're waiting for later in the week for news like Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to kind of pan out. If you're new to me, thank you for tuning in. If you're old to me, thank you for coming back. You can always find more information, dfsarmy.com, down there in the description of the video, where there's a coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, triggers 20% off each and every month you remain a member. And I don't think we stress enough how important the coaching is. If you get just access to the tools, that's fine. We're no different than any other site. I mean, I like what we do a lot, don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, we're no different than any other site. We offer tools, we offer what we offer that separates us from everybody else is actual coaching. Not very many sites, often duplicated, never replicated. Our site tries to help you dig in personally and make you a better player. Yes, through content, but more through the explanation of the content. So if you are the type of player that wants to go to the next level, you're going to want to talk to somebody. You're going to want feedback. You're going to want people that can actually give you an honest, experienced opinion on your lineup construction, on your bankroll management, contest selection, on your strategies, when to be contrarian, when to eat chalk, all these sorts of things you think you probably have a handle on, which is fine, but you might not. You might uncover new ideas along the way by listening to 3 or 4 experts banter about. That's where we provide value. Instead of just looking at tools and being left out there on your own to sink or swim, we actually grab your hand and we're your life preserver. We hold you up and give you a fighting chance against what is becoming a tougher and tougher and tougher industry to beat. It's one of those situations where if you can't beat them, join them. Everybody is going behind paywalls. Everybody is locking up their premium content, and everybody is trying to make a buck, and that's fine. But if you're going to continue to compete in this industry, you're going to have to invest in your own game too, because it's just a necessary evil these days. Hopefully, you are wanting to take a chance. You're curious enough that you're going to jump in and click that link and click that coupon code and at least save yourself 20% along the way, because after all, money's money. Let's dive in to a little bit around the industry right now, because I want to show you, if you have not looked yet, on the NFL page here at dfsarmy.com on the NFL tab, this DraftKings winning construction, this winning showdown lineup construction article is phenomenal. Very, very deep dive by DFS Up North that does Chalk Donkey over for PGA, if you're familiar with that. We've got some basic training articles. There is actually a basic training page. Come down here to basic training videos, and you're going to see the bankroll management video here that is free to the public, but you're going to see cash game construction and stacking in NFL DFS for 2019. Probably should change that title, that are VIP videos to help you get a leg up on where the industry is going and what you need to do to adjust. Those are very, very important videos, and we're going to continue to add to this series a little bit down the road. But for right now, these 3 core videos are very, very important for you to go back and watch. If you don't know about them already, go to the NFL tab, go to basic training videos, and watch those videos. Invest the time in watching those videos. Weekly coaches notes are already starting to populate. You can see Geeks DraftKings notes are coming along right now, and there are going to be position by position plays with core plays, GPP plays, plays he's more confident in, things that you're going to want to see, basic stats, and then detailed notes. The notes are everything here. The notes tell you exactly where his mind is and who he likes over somebody else to let you get an idea of how strongly he is on a particular play. Geek is a very high volume NFL player. It's where the whole concept of DFS Army started from, was from his daily Vegas Lines blog. If you come down here to Cash Keg, there's your DraftKings main. You've also got a FanDuel main. Both these coaches are doing both DraftKings and FanDuel both. And I think that it's very, very important to understand. Big Marley's doing tiers. Early afternoon, we've got afternoon slate coverage, early slate coverage, showdown primetime coverage. We've got coaches' notes for everything this year. You just flip through the tabs and off you go. The research station is where we're going to mostly start, though. So let's dive into our defenses and our tight ends, just to show you briefly and talk a little bit about the statistics to give you an idea of what's coming up and what's going on. The first thing I'm going to do is use the control button, and I'm going to click off. Well, obviously there's a little bit of lag here, so this commercial break brought to you by. I'm going to click this one off, and I'm going to turn on the 1 and 4 p.m. games for the main slate. You can see basic salaries. In fact, you can even see when you pop out here in the NFL tab, come down to Research Station. There's a DraftKings Research Station, a Showdown Station, a FanDuel Station, and whatever. And there's even there's a tutorial in there somewhere. I'm guessing maybe there's a button to it up here. There used to be an easy way to find a tutorial. If not, hit us up inside the coaching rooms. We'll get the tutorial to you, because it's got a lot of parameters in it. Salary, cap differential, of course, home team, away team, the time of the game, value rankings and fantasy points. Rocket Arm is specific to quarterbacks. It's like a DFSA grade for quarterbacks. The rating system, of course, ownership percentage will populate into there when that's up and running. And Vegas Lines projections are very, very important. We've got 2018 statistics of all kinds. We can scroll over here and find fantasy points allowed to the quarterback. We can find defenses that they're facing that led up points to the quarterback. And then just a host of things as we go. Okay, so that's just your quarterbacks. But today we wanted to focus, let's start on defense. Defense is hyper, hyper, hyper simple. This is a sortable and filterable tool that allows you to quickly cut the fat off of anything. When it comes to defenses, your highest correlate, it's a very volatile position, so is tight end. So let's not pretend that these are locks and these are super, super, super solid chances to hit value. These are just the odds-on favorites to have good games. They're the odds-on favorites to make value when it comes down to it, more often than not. Now, is more often than not 40% of the time? I mean, maybe, if that's what is the most often in the category. This is what we're doing. We're correlating to fantasy points. And it's not an 80% chance the guy's going to hit value at such a volatile position, because the wide range of outcomes is phenomenal at defense and tight end. But these are the categories that are going to narrow it down for you and give you the best chance. And watch how quickly we cut this list down. You're looking for point spread. So you're going to look into the Vegas Lines. And the point spread you want to be greater than 0 or less than 0. You want it to be a negative number. You want them to be favored, right? favored defenses have positive game script going for them, which means that the other team late in the game is usually pinning its ears back and just trying to throw the ball down the field, throw the ball down the field, throw the ball down the field, and play catch up, which leads to high risk plays, which feeds the defense sacks, turnovers, etc., etc., etc. Typically, the way that pans out when that game script plays out along those lines. But there's a second category there. There is a statistical bump when you are a 6-point favorite or greater. So being favored is great, but being favored by more than 6 points is even better. So if I really want to just deal with the creme de la creme, I'm going to take this spread column and I'm going to come down here to the number filters and I am going to go less than minus, say, minus 5. Minus 5. Let's go ahead and call it minus 5.5. Wham, we're already down to 4 teams. Those are the teams that are favored by 5.5 points or more. Okay? I'm going to look at the game total of the opponent. And I'm going to use the over-under. And I'm going to use the spread. And this particular sheet doesn't do it. It requires a little bit of math in your head. Actually, I'm going to expand this spread just a smidge. I am going to go down to 5. Because I want the 5.5s in there if they're in there. Because what I'm looking for is low implied team totals for the opponent, for these guys here. I don't want them implied to score a lot of points. Because if they are implied to score only 13 or 14 points, that puts my defense in a great position. If my defense is implied, if the defense, the offense for the team I'm looking for, this is getting confusing, I apologize. But if I'm looking at Philadelphia as a defense, I want Philadelphia's offense to be implied to score a lot of points. I want a big spread because that also means that their opponent, Washington, is implied to score very few points. And that is the second set of parameters we're looking for when it comes to defensive scoring in daily fantasy sports. A low opponent implied team total. I'm looking for the implied team total for the opponent to be under 22 points. And I'm going to look for it to be under 20, and I'm going to look for it to be under 18. If I can find, so those are 5 categories, right? Favored by more than 6, opponent under 22 points, under 20, or under 18. If I can find the best of the best, I'm finding under, favored by more than 6 points and under 18 points of the opponent's implied team total. If I can find that, I've set everything up in my favor. Yeah, I can look at pass rush. I can look at, efficiency of the opposing quarterback. I can look at all those other different parameters. But I'm just telling you to knock the list down immediately down to very few teams to choose from this week. Boom. Who's favored by more than 6? Whose opponent is implied to score less than 18 points? Or less than 20 if you have to expand it. You expand it to get more options. But generally speaking, if you can find those, that's where you're going to have the most odds, the most consistency in your defense returning a valuable score for you that week. So we're already down to Philly, Seattle, Cleveland, Dallas, LA Chargers. Makes sense, right? If I'm looking for who is going to imply the lowest points, I can simply take the implied team total. See, now the real formula is to take the overall team total, cut it in half, and then add half of the spread to the favorite and subtract half of the spread from the underdog, right? So, 47.5 is roughly 23, 24 points. Take away minus 3 from the favorite or add 3 to the favorite, and I'm sitting at like 24 points plus 3 is 27, right? The underdog would be, 23 minus 3, which would be about 20. But look at the difference. The 27 and the 20, the 6.5 tells you the difference. So all I have to do, and follow me on this one, all I have to do to find the implied team total of the opponent is just subtract the spread from the favorite. Philly's favored and implied to score 27 points. So if I subtract 8.5 points, or roughly 9 points, I come down to, 18 points? So I'm right at the threshold for Washington. Washington's implied to score about 18 points. So Philly's favored by more than 6, and Washington's implied to score under 20 points and right at 18, or maybe a little, it's either 18.5 or 17.5, but under 18 points. So that's a very, very strong defensive matchup. Seattle, same diff. If I take the 26.3 or 26.25, subtract 9 points from it, I'm down to, 17.3? That's under 18. So I'm more than a 6-point favorite, and I'm under 17 points implied total, or under 18 points implied total. Seattle, very, very strong defensive matchup this week. So what I'm looking at here is price too, 4,600, 4,500. Might take the 4,500 if I need $100. 25 points minus the 5.5, it gets me down to 20 points for Cleveland or for Tennessee. Tennessee is implied to score 20, which means Cleveland is in a pretty good spot, but not as strong a spot as Philadelphia and Seattle. 26.3 minus 7 gets me down to, what, 19 points for Dallas. So the Giants are under 20 points and more than a 6-point dog. That puts Dallas in a good spot, but not maybe quite as good a spot as these other two. LA Chargers and Indianapolis is a team everybody's focused on right now, minus 6.5. LA or Indianapolis has still implied to score about 21 points. So of all of these, the Chargers might be the least favorite or the least likely. Now, it's not by much. Don't get me wrong. It is not by much. We're talking about very thin hairs here. But this is your grouping of 4 or 5 teams. You could at this point, just like we did for K-score and Vegas odds and whatever for pitching, you can look here and say, ooh, $4,000 is $500 less than everybody else. That's worth it to me. Why would I spend more on such a volatile position? I think I'll take the $4,000 and run. It's in a great spot. It's not in a creme de la creme matchup, but it's really close. So why not save the $500, $600, $700 and move on? Perfect. If you want to do that. And over here on DraftKings, you can do the same thing. But over here on DraftKings, look at this. Seattle, 4,500 on FanDuel, 3,100 on DraftKings. You might consider Seattle. I play Chargers over on FanDuel, and I'll play the Seattle Seahawks over on DraftKings, where they're about the same price. And that way I've differentiated my lineup just a smidge. They're both in great spots. In fact, Seattle's in a phenomenal spot, right? You may say Seattle doesn't typically take the ball. Those are all things for you to hash out down the road. Pass rush, turnover ratios, etc. You can look at those and split hairs, but I'm just looking at these basic parameters right now. My defenses are done. And I did a lot of talking to you about the website and a lot of talking to you about the, promo code and all that kind of stuff. So really and truly, this took about 3 minutes to sort this thing out and go from. This is your list of defenses that you should be considering, in my opinion, for cash games and for generally conservative contests. If you're wanting to play in some large field GPP where you've got to hit the nuts, then you may take a chance, on Baltimore Ravens or whatever. Fine. Whatever you want to do. You may look at some low ownership thing and come up with some narrative where the Atlanta Falcons and Minnesota Vikings, turn the ball over a lot and take one. Whatever. Those are all up to you. But what I'm saying is, generally speaking, the odds-on favorite to hit value this week is going to come from one of these 5 teams. A few of these teams will have good, solid defensive performances. Now let's kick over to tight end, and let's talk about these parameters just a smidge. I'm going to get back over here to the left. I'm going to turn off that 8 o'clock game. I've got just my main slate now, and I'm looking for a few things when it comes to tight ends. I'm looking for, this time, home and road matters. It doesn't matter in defense too much, if at all. It does matter when it comes to tight end. Home tight ends tend to perform better than away tight ends. I don't know why. It's just the historical numbers. Favored tight ends tend to perform better. Not necessarily big favorites, but just favored. I'm sure there's an inflection point, whether it's 3-point favorite, 4-point favorite, 10-point favorite. I don't know. I haven't looked that far yet, but favored. Home favored tight ends have a higher consistency of reaching value. Okay? Now, we want to see targets. We want to see red zone targets. We want to see, a handful of those types of things too. And that's obviously going to help the situation. But we want to see a high implied team total, because if a tight end is typically going to get, maybe 20% of the touchdowns in any given day, and we see a team that's going to only score 2 touchdowns, well, tight end probably isn't going to factor into that. But if this team has scored 4 or 5 touchdowns because they're having a high scoring day, the tight end probably has factored in at that point and gotten 1 or 2 of those touchdowns. And that's the game we're going to try and target, is one with a higher team total. More touchdowns equals more chances for our tight end to get one of them. So that's where these logical things make sense. So let's sort this research station down by home favorites. Now, I can't sort out the home versus away stuff. I just have to watch the yellow teams. But I can come over here to Vegas, and I can then take, Vegas is over here. I can come down here and take the spread and make sure they're favored. So I take number filters, come down here to less than 0, and that gives me all the favored teams. Watch them all turn green under the spread column. Boom. There they are. Now I can take the team total, and I can say over 24 points. That seems to be one of the inflections that we're looking for. So greater than 23.5, because it won't include the 23.5, but it will include the 24s. So I'm 24 or higher. There's my tight ends. Okay? Just that fast. Cameron Braid, Jesse James. Whoopsie, got to scroll up some. Look at that. There's the real names. Those are the ones we're really looking for. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, O.J. Howard, Hunter Henry, Njoku, Rudolph, Witten, Disley, whatever. Now let's start looking at these guys and see who might be in line to get the targets. Will Travis Kelce get himself some targets? Yes. Is he on the road, though? Yes. So while he's a great factor week in and week out, I'm not telling you he's not even cash safe. I'm just saying that it's a little bit of a risk. There's a little more of an inconsistency with him hitting value on the road than at home. You can look into his game logs, and if you search and find that he hits value on the road as often as he hits it at home, that's fine. I'm talking about tight ends in general. Therefore, I'm lumping him into that crowd. He's on the road. He's the highest priced guy on the slate at tight end. I don't think that I need him this week. I can certainly work lineups around where I'm using cheaper running backs this week, and then I'm looking for tight end and maybe even Patrick Mahomes to stack them, and I can certainly put together a great lineup doing that. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But I might rather pay up for a more stable wide receiver or another second stable running back or something like that in my cash games and those types of things. Those are the things we're going to discuss in the coaching forums when we get into those a little bit later in the week. But for right now, let's just talk about the tight ends. I would not have Travis Kelce on my premium list. He's always going to be on my list, but I would not have him on my major excited to roster guys. I would look at a Zach Ertz, and I know with the news there's a little bit of a Goddard committee type of situation. Makes me a little bit nervous at that price, but he is implied to score a lot of points. He is favored, and he is at home, and we know he gets targets. We know he gets red zone targets. If we scroll over here, you might look at something like red zone targets. 16 red zone targets last year, along with Kelsey's 17. So they obviously get targeted in the red zone more than most of these other tight ends do. When I look at points that the defense let up per game, I can find some keys here as far as targets per game, receptions per game, how much this team gets destroyed by the tight end. I can look at other things, points, tight end, there's the points allowed, their ranking. So Washington handled tight ends okay. Indianapolis got destroyed by tight ends. That's something we should probably take note of. If I look down at the 2018 stats, I can look literally at targets per game. 9, 10, 5, 5, 5. Now we know that maybe a Hunter Henry who's got 0, that's not right. He's going to get targeted. He should feature into that offense. So some of this stuff we need to wait a few weeks for this to really, really, really pan out and play out. But you can look for projections on receptions, 3, 4, 5, 6 receptions, and maybe a possibility of a touchdown. In this, you would consider maybe if you're adding your own projections, maybe 3 points for half of a touchdown to give yourself a little bit of a median projection. But these are all things that we can consider after we consider who's home, who's favored, and who's implied to score a lot of points. O.J. Howard is on a lot of people's lists. Hunter Henry's definitely on a lot of people's lists. When I look at the pricing now and I see Hunter Henry at 6,000 and Travis Kelce at nearly 8,000, I'd probably go to Hunter Henry. Indianapolis gets destroyed by tight end, so it's a good matchup. We know Hunter Henry doesn't have a lot of competition at tight end. We know that Phillip Rivers likes the tight end, and we know that they're at home, they're favored, and they're implied to score a lot of points. That's why the more I look at these, the more I'm probably going to land on Hunter Henry as my tight end. I know now if I can free up the money to get up $2,000 that I don't need to spend somewhere else and need to upgrade somewhere else, I probably would go to Travis Kelce for sure. But I would look at some of these other names. These are not necessarily cash names, but these are names for tournaments and things that are likely to hit value. And these would be people that I would be considering. So just roughly put together defenses and tight ends, you've got a couple of lists to pick from. In your defenses, obviously, a lot of people are going to go to Baltimore, but I would be on Philadelphia, Seattle, Cleveland, Dallas, Chargers, probably more Seattle and Chargers maybe. I don't mind Cleveland. I don't even mind Dallas. We know that Eli can throw the ball away. I don't mind Philadelphia. Philadelphia's special teams almost always seem to be good for a weird punt return or a kick return, so there's a good chance of getting a touchdown out of them in this matchup, especially being that the game script actually favors them to be being thrown on late in the game by Washington. Tight end matchups, obviously, Kelsey's always on the list, but he's not probably one of my favorite plays this week just because he's on the road. But Zach Ertz is probably on the list. O.J. Howard, probably on the list. Hunter Henry, definitely on the list. And Njoku, if you're wanting to stack a Baker Mayfield. Kyle Rudolph, if you're really wanting to get tournament goofy and go with a Kirk Cousins. These are the types of plays. Seattle, if you like Seattle and you like Russell Wilson, you want a tournament stack, you could throw in a Tyler Lockett and then come back with Will Disley. Might work for you. And then run a Tyler Boyd on the other side of it. These are the things that we'll probably talk about. But if I were plugging in anybody right now, I'd probably plug in Seattle's defense and Hunter Henry at tight end. Those would be my first go-tos. There are other options, and that's what this is designed to do, is give you several options that are also likely to hit value and pick from there. Because everybody's their own man. Everybody's their own person. And that's just where we're going on Monday. Come back on Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit more about wide receivers because there's a couple of nuances there that you're going to need to know. And we'll just start checking off these boxes and we'll just start formulating lists, trimming the fat. The rest of these guys are pretty much dead to me outside of tournament lineups where I'm taking a specific narrative and a specific flyer on somebody. But when I'm talking about cash games and I'm talking about hybrid type lineups where I'm wanting to be mostly safe but want to take a little bit of risk. These are the lists that I'm using. These are the names that I'm using. And then I'm going to take these early in the week and I'm going to compare them against Geeks Notes, Kegs Notes, and some of the other content coming out inside DFSArmy.com. And I'm going to see how things start to stack up. Am I getting more and more confidence in my picks because everybody seems to agree with me? If so, then that's my cash game lineup. It's going to build itself. Tune back in a little bit later. Use coupon code CHOP. Hit the like and subscribe button. Ring the notification bell. The next one won't be as long as this one because I won't be covering as much through the site as I did here and showing you the articles and whatnot. We'll just jump right into wide receivers and we'll talk about them in 10 to 15 minutes. Take care, guys. Hopefully you're excited that week 1 is here. I know I'm excited. Let's go get them.